House Hotel have been so large that they should have required an additional green light approval, but were allowed to slip by. Ironically, those were both projects that voters might have approved, but we may never know. The problem is misdirection breeds mistrust, and that mistrust is coming home to roost. Thank you.
My name is Karen Carlson, and I've been a resident of Corona Del Mar since 1969 and love our community. And first of all, I would like to second everything Mr. Mosier said. I've been traveling quite a bit, and I was absolutely flabbergasted when as I was leaving for 2 weeks, saw the news about the museum project. The height, the density, on top of what I'm still hoping to protest, the car wash project. And all you have to do is look at all of the apartments along Jamboree. Fashion Island has become so dense and will become more so. And I personally hit the wall on Saturday when I was trying to go to my longtime bank, the Chase Bank up in Fashion Island at about 2:45 in the afternoon. There was not a single parking place to be had. And I circled and circled and finally kind of double parked and ran in, and there were only 2 clients, total clients, in the bank at that time. All the rest were shoppers. I ended up double parking for the total was over 10 minutes to get a spot to do a transaction that should have taken no longer than 2 minutes. We have too many people now. And when you start thinking of all the people and the cars that will be added with these projects in Fashion Island, I just don't see how it's going to work. I'm pretty aware and have paid attention to what's been going on in our community from the time I moved here. And I don't know where any public notice, at least of either of those big projects, was given. I don't mean just something in the paper, but allowing input of the community before it ever got to this point. So I'm going to be really hoping that wisdom and good sense will prevail. And thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Requests for continuances?
Chair Kramer, there are 2 requests for continuance this evening. The first is item number 4, the residence variance at 1011 Kings Road. There was some misinformation that was distributed amongst the public and has generated some concerns within the community, so the applicant has requested this item be continued to April 7th. During that time, the applicant will interact with the neighbors, as well as city staff will distribute some additional information to the Planning Commission and to the public. The other item is number 6, the residence at Newport Place. This item is requested to be tabled to this time. We are continuing to work with the applicant based upon the comments that were received at the study session at your last meeting. And we anticipate this coming back in April, but we'd like to table it at this point and not identify a specific date so that we can renotice it at proper time.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to consent items. Item number 1, minutes
Chair
of
Kramer, can I ask you to take a motion on those 2 items?
Sure.
The requested time frame refers to be continued to April 7th.
I'll make a motion to continue. Can we do both of those in the same vote? I'd like to make a motion that we do it, and especially like to comment on the LSQ property. I spoke with the applicant, and it seems like he's making a real good effort to work with his neighbors to come to a conclusion and a solution. And I think that's what we want as far as our applicants, to work with our neighbors. And he's, I think, doing a great job by continuing and waiting for one of his neighbors to come back from being out of the country, and so he can work with them. So I do want to recognize that and let the commissioners know that I think that's the main reason for this continuance for that specific property on Kings.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Consent items, item number 1, minutes of March 3rd, 2016. Is there a motion?
Motion for approval, including comment from Mr. Motion on this errata sheet.
Is there a second? Please vote.
Just to clarify, Chair Kramer, I think I have to abstain because I showed up late, correct? I didn't listen to the balance of the meeting, is that correct?
That's fine, Commissioner Zach.
Okay.
Please vote.
Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioners Zach and Hilgren abstaining.
Okay, moving on to public hearing items. Item number 2, from Bristol Street, Verizon Wireless Telecom Facility. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Good evening. My name is Jason Patton. I'm with the Planning Division. Verizon Wireless is requesting an amendment to an approved use permit for a new telecom facility. The property is 2350 Bristol Street. This is in Santa Ana Heights. The property contains a 3-story office building that faces Bristol Street and Highway 73. The 2 adjacent properties, the left and the right, are in commercial districts of Santa Ana Heights, and the properties at the rear beyond the parking lot are residential dwellings. Just for some background, in June 2014, the Planning Commission approved a telecom facility at this location. They approved a conditional use permit to allow a facility to exceed the 35-foot height limit in this district and allowed it to extend to 42 feet 4 inches. These photos are of the approved design. So at the left, you have the front of the building, which faces Bristol Street. There was a row of screening that was added at the top of the parapet, which is identified there. And on the right is the rear of the building facing the parking lot. There was a column that was approved that extends from the surface of the lot to the top of the building. So again, this is the approved facility from 2014. So this gives you an idea of 12 antennas that were approved as part of that facility. There were 8 at the front that faced Bristol Street, 4 in each area of that triangle, and then 4 at the rear that faced the parking lot. All 12 of these were screened behind that screening we just saw. So Verizon's request tonight, the use permit they've asked for, is a slight change to that approval. They've requested an additional 15 inches of screen height at the front of the building that faces Bristol Street. So I've tried to circle that on the left in yellow. This will bring the overall height to 43 feet 7 inches. And that is really the principal change at the front of the building. The rear of the building is going to stay generally the same. We've had them look at the height again, and they've provided a more precise measurement, so it bumped up 3 inches to 42 feet 7 inches. So just kind of wrap this up, the proposal is still going to maintain a Class 1 facility. All antennas and all support equipment will be behind screening or in the building. The principal change is 15 inches of screening at the Bristol Street frontage. And Verizon has claimed that the facility will add system capacity. They've provided maps that show there are gaps in service in this area. Staff is recommending Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit number UP 2015-049. I'm available to answer your questions, as is a representative for Verizon. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission questions for staff?
I do.
Secretary Ketting?
I was curious about the conditions of approval, Exhibit A, handwritten 21. Item 12, actually, page 22. Second sentence, this proximity will require extraordinary comprehensive advanced planning and frequency coordination. Basically, not to interfere with some city. That's a condition, right? I mean, it sounds like this is getting real close to not working or interfering with the city code.
Yeah, the applicant understands the condition.
Yeah, but
It's a standard condition.
can the city understand it? Can they make it work for them and work for the city without interference? I've never seen a condition written like that.
Yes, the city doesn't have an issue with that. It's a standard language we've used before.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zach?
I think I was a little unclear on this. Is this a co-location for Verizon to this facility, or is AT&T abandoning their equipment and Verizon's now stepping in?
That's right. So the facility was never built. AT&T has abandoned it, and Verizon's taken it over.
Okay. One of the things I think I was just struggling with is, may I see the change in the height of in the antennas that you've outlined in the staff report. But when I go and I look at the visual simulations of what's currently there and then what's now proposed, and that's only supposed to be like, I don't know what, it was like a foot or I can't remember the exact. So 13 inches or something, or.
Right. So the visual sims the photos that are provided, show the existing condition today.
Right. And then it's adding on to what's not even there right now. So it's taking up a level. So, but even if I look, I think I follow you now. But so did you have a proposed simulation of what AT&T was supposed to do versus what Verizon is now doing? Or is it just so similar because it's so nominal, the difference?
That's right. So these photos are from AT&T. This was what was used back then. And
so you just use the same ones, and
these are different. So this was provided by AT&T, and then this was provided by Verizon. So they're nearly identical.
You can see there's a difference in the height measurements. This one indicates 43 feet 7 inches, and the other one is 40.
And can you go back to the other one? So this is the Verizon one right here that's being proposed, correct?
This is the
AT&T. Go back to the other one. Yeah, man. When I was looking at my staff report and I was comparing those two, it just seemed like more than a little over a foot in terms of the increased height. And so I was wondering, is the antenna just increasing, but the parapet's actually going higher, or you're measuring the actual building? You're not measuring the difference in the. And I know these are simulations. When I was looking at them side by side, it just seemed like it was more of a dramatic increase in height.
It is only 15 inches is what they're proposing. The antenna is a 2 foot taller antenna, but they've adjusted it the way it's arranged behind that screening to where they only need 15 inches of screening.
Any other commissioner questions? Okay, does the applicant have a presentation? Is the applicant available? Come forward.
Good evening, Commission. Jim Heinrich from Planecom, representing Verizon tonight. We have conditions of approval and to accept them as they are. If you do have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions?
Yes, I do. Condition 37, last one. I'm curious, what is a 17-inch by 30-inch hand hole along the rest of the avenue?
I believe that's the utility post. So it's going to be on private property instead of public right away.
Staff, is that looks to me like an opening or something.
Yeah, it's public works related, but the condition is really just to get them to have all the proposed improvements on site on private property. So it's a small little utility enclosure.
A handhold. Okay.
Size of your hand.
No, it's not.
All right, thank you. Let's open it up to general public comments. Please come forward.
Chair Kramer and members of the commission, my name is Jim Mosher, as you know, and I hope you're proud of me because I managed to get a written comment in by your new deadline. But under the assumption you didn't have time to digest it entirely, I will just tell you what the gist of the comment is. I'm very pleased that this cell company is proposing a highly stealthed installation, meaning it has little impact. You can't tell it from what might be normal architecture for the most part. However, even given that, it's still part of the new telecom code that you yourselves reviewed and proposed, that all the applicants try to use the smallest technology, the least impact that they can have. And as I tried to explain in writing, there's been some inconsistency about what size Verizon claims their antennas have to be. And as I wrote in writing, there are two previous proposals you saw where, like here, they said they needed 8-foot antennas. But if you remember the evening when you had the proposal, which was from Verizon for Spyglass Hill Park, and you saw the two trash cans, those were enclosing antennas that were supposed to work for Verizon, and the antennas that would go in those trash cans, we were told only needed to be 4 feet 8 inches tall. So I'm a little confused why they need the increase, but perhaps there's some explanation. The other comment is about this column that AT&T proposed on the south side of the building. Hiding the antennas is a lot better than just having naked antennas on the outside of buildings, as cell providers used to do. However, as I understand it, the column has no function at all except to hide antennas that are up at the roof level. Why they need to stick up above the roof, as they're shown there, I do not know. And when AT&T proposed this, I was saying it was a pretty good design, but one of the neighbors who lives across the street on Zenith came to that hearing and said he didn't want to really look at that. So that seems a lot bigger than it needs to be. It doesn't seem like it needs to stick up above the building. And since there's nothing in it, why does it have to extend down the whole length of the building? So you as architects and planners, or at least people with a sense like that, might want to, and it's not been built yet, you need to understand that. AT&T did not build this. The building is designed to be smooth. Would it look better and be less impactful on the neighbor and future neighbors and current ones if it was just the 8-foot screening up there at the top rather than this massive column that's being proposed? So that's the essence of the written comments. Thank you.
I'd like to Mr. Moser, while you were speaking, I was looking at handheld page 49 cross-section of the building, and it shows that rear protrusion at 5 feet. And inside of that, it says it will mount 8-foot tall antennas on the back side. So there is a function.
Yes, yeah. The antennas are up in, they could be flush with the roof level and extend down just 8 feet. And that's all that's covered. There's not cables or electronics or anything going down to the ground. So the alternative would be to ask them to mount the antennas flush with the roof and just cover the 8 feet where the antennas are. And possibly the neighbor across the street would be happier with that than what's being proposed here.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Does the applicant have any other closing comments? Bring it back to the commission. Is there a motion? Commissioner Holden?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I think the changes are modest and acceptable, so I will move approval of. We approve conditional use permit UP 2014-016, resolution number 1947.
I think it's UP 2015-049.
I'm just reading what my fellow commissioner has.
But I am the chair.
Heavy what you got.
The omniscient chair.
Okay. Okay, how about 2015-049?
Okay. I hear an echo in here. Okay. People are supposed to laugh. I mean, this is some funny stuff going on here. Okay. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Great, thank you. Next is item number 3, East Balboa Lot Reorientation. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Yes, indeed. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Makana Nova, Associate Planner to the Planning Division. The application before you this evening is for a tentative parcel map and code amendment to establish setbacks at a property at 1902 East Balboa Boulevard. The code amendment is necessary because there is a districting map setback along East Balboa Boulevard, which is a part of the zoning code, and in order to amend that setback, a code amendment is required. Here's a view of the area. Property is located on in Peninsula Point on the Balboa Peninsula. You can see East Balboa Boulevard to the south here. There are a couple of private streets. It's the former L Street, which is a private street on the east portion of the property. The property extends to the center line of L Street. And there's also a private street ingress-egress easement along the west alley. There's 10-foot public alley at the center of the right-of-way here. And then on either side, there's a 10-foot private alley easement. Here's a view of the existing property as viewed from East Balboa Boulevard. Property is currently developed with a single-family residence. Here's a closer view of that existing residence from L Street. Here is a view from the north facing the residence. And here's a view of the existing private alley area on the west. Here's a closer view of the existing properties. What the applicant is requesting is to reconfigure the 4 legal parcels on the property to their original tract configuration. Here are the easements. Let me just back up a little. This is the original tract configuration shown here that the applicant is requesting. The private easements were added later after the original tract. The home was built in 1956, and then the current configuration was subdivided on the property in 1972 with the intention of developing 4 homes on the lot. However, the 4 homes were never developed, and the existing single-family residence has remained. At this time, the applicant is requesting to reconfigure the parcels back to their original configuration in order to develop the site with 4 new single-family residences. Under the current application, the existing private L Street would be maintained. The easements would not be changed, nor would the western alley easement. So here's a look at the requested setbacks. You can see the outer limits of the site in red, and the 5-foot districting map setback along East Balboa on the south. So the applicant's request under the code amendment is to remove this existing 5-foot setback, which is considered a front setback, and re-establish a 25.5, sorry, that should be 0.5 foot setback on the front along the private L Street. So this would serve as the property frontage. The private easement overlays that front setback. So what it does is it establishes an 8-foot front setback, which is similar to the adjacent blocks in the area. On the rear, the zoning code typically reverts to a 5-foot default setback along a 10-foot wide alley. In this case, there is a 10-foot wide private alley easement that overrides that 5-foot setback, so structures could not be constructed in that area. However, the 5-foot setback would still determine the buildable area for floor area purposes. So, important distinction, the buildings would have to be back at 10 feet, but floor area would be based on this 5-foot setback. And finally, for the 4 lots, which would be 30 feet in width, the zoning code would typically apply a 3-foot setback, which is what the applicant is requesting. Here's a quick floor area comparison. The goal here is to maintain parity with nearby blocks. So the resulting buildable area is 2,087 square feet, whereas the adjacent blocks have 2,088 square feet. Very, very close. Here's a look at those existing blocks. This is the site in question with the 4 original lots configured. You can see these other blocks, 26, 27, and the other half of 28 are all configured in that same way. So the planning staff recommends approval of the applicant's request this evening. I'd like to note here that we have received a couple of correspondences from the public, primarily regarding the private easement areas and the protection of pavers in those easement areas and potentially signage within the private easements. Staff has spoken with both the applicant and the members of the public, inform them that because these are private easements, it's essentially a civil matter between the public, the neighbors, and the applicant. So the city, with this application, is responsible for conditioning public improvements, and those are the conditions that you'll see in the draft resolution for approval. The alternatives here are to approve a modified lot design or different setbacks, or to deny the application, in which case it would not proceed to the city council. Here's a quick view of those existing alley improvements with the pavers. And very quickly, the project is exempt under CEQA, under Class 3 and Class 15. Class 3, I'm sorry, it's not existing facilities, it's for new construction, and that includes the construction of 4 new residences, and Class 15 for minor land divisions, which includes the subdivision of the parcel, under the parcel map. So if approved this evening, the project would proceed to City Council on April 26th. And are there any questions of staff at this time?
Any questions?
Commissioner.
Thanks. I was confused. I appreciate the images you put there, particularly with the parallel lots like that. And what I thought was they were going to organize it in the 4 squares as opposed to the 4 rectangles. Was there any consideration given to that? And is there any different opportunity in terms of design and setback that it just strikes me that you could have homes that have much more exposure?
So the 4 square is the existing lot configuration. So there are 4 underlying legal lots on the property, and this is the current configuration. They could build 4 homes right now. There was a modification permit approved back in 1972 that established setbacks. So they could essentially come into plan check today and build homes. But the request this evening is to re-subdivide and reconfigure those into the requested configuration.
And look forward to that decision. Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Zimmer?
Just a comment on the conditions of approval and condition number 5. As I understand it, the tentative parcel map would have to get approved by coastal, through coastal development permit, I believe. So I was thinking it was more appropriate for condition number 5 to say prior to issuance of a demolition permit, approval of the coastal commission shall be required for the subdivision, rather than a building permit. But I'll defer to staff on what they think.
Sure, we can make that distinction. Demo is also a form of building permit.
Yeah, I understand, but sometimes it can be misconstrued, and I think that should be clarified.
Certainly.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yeah, I'm curious. Brenda, how long would it take the coastal commission to look at a tentative map, not on the water, can't be seen from the water.
Coastal Commission timing really varies based on staffing. The parcel map, for something like this, it's inland, so it's usually a shorter review period than something that would be right on water.
Any other items? Okay, does the applicant have a presentation?
Hello, my name is Thomas St. Clair. Happy St. Patty's Day. Makana did a great job explaining the project, and I just kind of want to reiterate a couple things that she said. The configuration as it sits now, we don't feel is really consistent with the neighboring parcels, as she showed. So we thought that this would be much more conducive to and much more consistent with what's already going down in that area on Peninsula Point. In addition, the current configuration isn't very conducive for development, specifically for the lot in the top left. It has an alley on both sides, so a front door to that home would theoretically have to be off an alley, which isn't great for any potential homeowner. And lastly, we're essentially just requesting reverting back to the original 1925 parcel map. So I'm here if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
So you're representing RREG Investment Series LLC. So are you the current owner of the parcel?
So I'm the owner of RREG Investment Series. I have the property in escrow. I released a deposit on it. We have considering how long this is going to take to go through Coastal Commission, the current owner has given me a proper authority to do this process. Hope that answers.
I'm just curious, I mean, is your purchase contingent on getting all the approvals for the parcel?
Yeah, probably not going to close if we don't get this parcel approval. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes. Looking at the graphic, I assume the new layout will be consistent with those lots and houses just to our left?
Right. Yes. And as we're doing some preliminary design on the homes, and we have the ability to build over 4,000 square feet, but we're not going to be coming close to that number, I don't think.
Thank you.
Let's see. Open up to general public comments. Please come forward. Were you going to speak? Were you speaking or not? Anyone speaking? General public comments? Okay. So I will close. I doubt there's any rebuttal since there was no one else that took the cue. I guess people want to get out of here quick. Does the lineup all dunes? Do we want? Okay. I'm the one taking the timer. Okay. Close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Is there any discussion or a motion? What's the pleasure here?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
We adopt resolution recommending the City Council approve tentative parcel map number NP 2016-002 and zoning code amendment number CA 2016-001.
Commissioner Hilgren, just one point of clarification. Does that include Commissioner Zach's change in condition number 5?
Please.
Commissioner Zach, did you have a comment? Do you have a question?
I just have a question before, and it can be asked before or after, but so since the building right now exists across 4 lots essentially, is that legally non-conforming, or how is a building permit issued across lots?
The way the subdivision code works, we cannot issue permits for a new structure across a lot line. So that home was already there. The subdivision code may have been different back in 1972 when the subdivision was recorded.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments before voting? Okay. please vote. Clark, you gotta put the voting tabs up.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is item number 5, the Back Bay Landing modifications. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Give me 1 minute while my presentation look. Essentially, this is a modification of previously approved land use amendments for the Back Bay Landing project that was approved by the city in 2014. However, changes are needed to be consistent with some modifications suggested by the California Coastal Commission. So I apologize for the delay in the presentation.
How much longer will it be?
20 seconds. So due to the time on when the project was last reviewed by the Planning Commission in 2013, I thought it would be important to provide a little bit of background for members of the audience as well as the newer commissioners that are on the commission now. As you can see on the area of the project, involves the property located at the corner of Coast Highway and Bayside Drive. It's also bordered by the Upper Newport Bay on the west. It's currently an underutilized site used primarily for RVs such as restaurants, retail, kayak rental, facilities, and marine service type uses. However, because the project site is currently designated by our various land use documents for recreational marine commercial uses only and residential uses are not allowed, the project would involve amendments to our various land use documents. So the applicants decided to process the applications to 2 separate stages of approvals. The first is what involves the amendments that we're discussing today, and that's what we call the legislative approvals. And that includes amendments to the general plan and coastal land use plan to change the designation of the site from a recreational marine commercial designation to one that would allow mixed use. It would also involve code amendment and the adoption of the planned community development plan, which essentially establishes the zoning document for the site and provides development limits, setbacks, other development standards, as well as design guidelines, which would guide that future development of the site. The applicant also processed the lot line adjustment. I do want to point out that the property owner also owns the adjacent mobile home site. And as such, he was able to process the lot line adjustment to make some minor adjustments to the project boundaries to allow for improved site access. So with that lot line adjustment, the changes to the various land use documents would follow for consistency. Lastly, a traffic study was prepared to evaluate the potential traffic impacts and assist with environmental documentation for the full build-out of the site. Once the land use approvals are finalized, including today's actions and final confirmation by the Coastal Commission, the applicant would then come back to the city and process the site development approvals. And that's when we'll see the actual design of the project, and it'll be reviewed for consistency with the new coastal land use plan policies and the planned community development plan regulations. Again, so just a little bit of project background. The legislative approvals were previously approved by the Planning Commission, recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in December of 2013, and ultimately approved by the City Council in February of 2014. Their actions also included certifying the environmental impact report prepared for the project. However, because one of those legislative approvals, specifically the coastal land use plan, The Coastal Commission maintains jurisdiction over that document, and any changes requires Coastal Commission approval. All the legislative approvals were contingent upon the California Coastal Commission's approval of the Coastal Lands Plan Amendment. Their approval took place in December of 2015. However, it included a number of suggested modifications that requires the city's acceptance. And due to those changes, it requires a number of other modifications to those other land use documents. And so that's the current request that's before you tonight. Specifically, it's modifications to the previous approved general plan amendment, coastal lands plan amendment, code amendment, and planned community development plan. And I'll go into each of those in more detail later in my presentation. However, because we are amending those documents, the property owner and applicant is also requesting a revised lot line adjustment. During the time of this review, they were able to acquire an additional mobile home, which would allow them to adjust the boundaries a little bit further to further improve site circulation between the two sites. And so just a little bit more background. This is an area of the project site. The areas highlighted in yellow shows you the entire boundaries of the project site, approximately 31 acres. But a majority of it consists of submerged lands, as well as the De Anza Bayside Peninsula Marsh. The areas that just came up in green are the prior lot line adjustment areas, and the area in blue is the new lot line adjustment area. But when we're talking about development of the site, we're primarily discussing the areas highlighted in orange, which would be the new mixed-use areas, as well as the other development. This is an enhanced view of the revised lot line adjustment. The prior lot line adjustment is shown in pink, and the additional lot line adjustment area revision is shown in the shading. So what I'll do is I'll go through each of the various land use documents and the amendments. I'll start with the existing designations, and I'll discuss what was previously approved and how those are affected by the Coastal Commission modifications. So on the left, you can see this is the existing land use designation of the site for the Coastal Land Use Plan. The primary project area and the portions of the project north of the bridge are currently designated for recreational, marine, commercial uses. And as you can see on the exhibit on the right, the land use designation site was to be designated as mixed-use horizontal, which would allow for the horizontal intermixing of units, including the ability to have freestanding residential. The amendment also included redesignating the prior lot line adjustment areas for mixed-use horizontal use. This exhibit illustrates the proposed change as a result of the Coastal Commission modifications. The primary change involves changing that land use designation from mixed-use horizontal to mixed-use water-related. And the primary difference is that water-related prohibits freestanding residential. So the residential would have to be incorporated as a vertical mixed use above commercial uses. It also prioritizes coastal-dependent and related uses and encourages the continuation of such uses on the site. The Coastal Commission did require that a small portion of the bayfront adjacent to the mobile home remain designated for recreational, marine, commercial use. Also, this modified land use change would also incorporate the new proposed lot line adjustment area. In addition to that land use change, the Coastal Commission modifications made a number of significant changes to the proposed policy-specific or the project-specific policies, including eliminating a public view tower exception that was previously proposed that would have allowed for an up to 65-foot tall public viewing tower. The Coastal Commission felt that exceeding the 35-foot shoreline height limitation would establish precedents for other projects to seek height exceptions in the coastal area, as well as they felt they had a view impact to the area. They also added policies requiring the preparation of a hazards assessment to analyze potential flooding and erosion type impacts, as well as a sea level rise and shoreline management plan to ensure that the future design of the project addresses adaptive measures to address sea level rise. And another significant modification they made was they added policies to provide enhanced coastal access above and beyond what was previously proposed, which specifically requires a continuous bayfront connection around the adjacent mobile home park, connecting the main project area to the Newport Dunes Trail to the east. This is an exhibit from the modified coastal land use plan, and the area that's clouded is the project site. And as you can see by the red arrow, that's the new addition to the map and the new public access trail. Similar to the coastal land use plan, the general plan previously designated the site as recreational, marine, commercial. The prior approval changed that designation to mixed use, horizontal. And for consistency with that coastal commission modifications, the general plan is currently being proposed to be modified to mixed use, water related, which basically has a similar land use plan requirement. I do want to point out that there is no change in density or intensity from the prior approval. That portion of the bayfront adjacent to the mobile home park would also remain designated for recreational, marine, commercial use, and the amendment would incorporate the new revised lot line adjustment area. With regard to the zoning code amendment, previously the site was zoned, a majority of the site was zoned for planned community, with the exception of the small piece of the property south of the Coast Highway Bridge, which was previously zoned for commercial and recreational marine use. So the previously approved zoning code amendment incorporated the entire boundaries of the site within the PC and included the previously approved lot line adjustment. The modified zoning code amendment before you tonight simply expands those boundaries further to include the revised lot line adjustment. And with regard to the planned community development plan, again, this is the document that functions as the zoning regulations that would govern land use and development of the site. It goes through and establishes precise development limits and setbacks for the site. It also provides a vision for the future development of the site through the design guidelines, and it also regulates the long-term operation of the site. But as a result of the Coastal Commission modifications, the planned community development plan would also incorporate various changes to eliminate the freestanding residential component, eliminates the view tower potential and the design guidelines related to the view tower. It includes new standards for the enhanced bayfront trail with the connection to the Newport Dunes. It also incorporates the requirements for the preparation of the sea level rise and shoreline management plan and hazards plan. It's also been updated to revise the architectural theme. The original draft included a theme for coastal Mediterranean, and so to provide a little bit of flexibility, the theme was revised to be more of a coastal influence type theme that focused more on high quality design and indoor-outdoor type living. And lastly, the planned community development plan was updated to include all the exhibits, including the conceptual plan and related documents, and I'll show some of those in just a bit. I also did want to point out that one of the changes to the planned community development plan that was not regulated by the Coastal Commission was to authorize the Orange County Sanitation District pump station to possibly be rebuilt in Planning Area 2. So currently the pump station is located in Planning Area 1, which is the area north of the bridge, as you can see in this area. However, they are currently investigating possibly rebuilding, upgrading the facility, and relocating it. And so to provide flexibility, the document's being updated to allow them to relocate within Area 2 should they choose to. But this action is not authorizing the relocation or any increase or would preclude any capacity at the station. And in talking about planning areas, this is an exhibit from the planned community development plan, and it breaks up the project area into 5 distinct planning areas. Planning Area 1 is the primary mixed-use project area. Planning Area 2 is the area south of the bridge and would be developed solely for commercial use with marine-related service type uses. Planning Area 3 is the existing private marina access way and beach for the Bayside Village Mobile Home Park. This is also the area that is now being required to be opened up for public access and the connection to the Newport Dunes Trail. Planning Area 4 would involve the development of marina storage and mobile home park storage and additional guest parking. And Planning Area 5 consists of the submerged fee-owned land, which is basically the marina, and the dams of the Bayside Marsh Peninsula, which is open space, and there's no change proposed to those areas. Just for comparison, this is the previous conceptual site plan for the previously approved planned community development plan. As you can see, the original concept plan was to allow for some freestanding residential along the western bayfront edge of the site. This was the proposed location of the enclosed dry stack boat storage, which was located behind the residential uses. This is the approximate location of the parking structure. As you can see, it would be wrapped around with retail and residential uses. At the corner of Bayside Drive and East Coast Highway, that would be where there would be a retail plaza with restaurants and retail. This is the approximate location of the public view tower that was previously proposed. As a result of those modifications, this is the revised conceptual plan that will be included in the planned community development plan. As you see along the western bayfront edge, the freestanding residential units have been removed and replaced with a public view plaza on the second floor and parking in the boathouse on the first floor. The portion of the boathouse that sticks up on the second floor further behind would also be wrapped around with visitor serving uses such as a restaurant, retail, and residential uses behind. The conceptual site plan and design guidelines also would accommodate increased access from Coast Highway and view corridors. The corner of the project near Bayside Coast Highway would remain essentially the same with a focus on retail and restaurant type uses. I did want to just point out this exhibit. This illustrates the main project driveway, or conceptually. Exhibit on the top illustrates what the driveway would look like with the prior lot line adjustment, and the exhibit on the bottom illustrates how the revised lot line adjustment helps to enhance the site circulation for the project site, but also for the adjacent mobile home site. And lastly, I do want to add that the project did have an EIR prepared for it, which was certified by the City Council in February 2014. However, to ensure that these proposed modifications tonight did not result in any new or substantially greater impacts than was previously analyzed, an addendum was prepared to the EIR to analyze project modifications. And the addendum concludes that there is no changes in the significance of the conclusions of the EIR. Typo here, but the next steps is City Council approval of these modifications should the Planning Commission recommend approval, but not medications. If the City Council adopts these changes, then the next step would be to submit the final Coastal Land Use Plan amendment as adopted by the City Council to the Coastal Commission for their final review and verification. Upon their approval, the applicant would then proceed with their site development review, which would require Planning Commission review and approval, and then ultimately a coastal development permit. And that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
So, with respect to the revised architecture and all that, I mean, that's not in here, so that's part of the site development review?
The revised architectural theme is included in the Planned Community Development Plan, provide a little bit more flexibility, but ultimately when they submit for their site development review is when the Planning Commission would review the actual architecture and design of the project specifics.
Perhaps the applicant can provide additional color on that. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of substantial changes from when we last looked at this in 2013. So I'm curious to hear from the applicant, some additional background on that. And then I'm curious, what is the effect on the mobile home owners with this new condition from the Coastal Commission for a bayside public access trail? How does that affect the homeowners, the mobile home?
So currently the access way is private, and there's also a private beach that bisects the access way. So with this new condition, that access way will be opened up to the public. And that is a requirement in the revised plan, community development plan. As part of the site development review, we are requesting a design for that walkway, and there's some allowances built in for some landscaping to provide some privacy to those existing residents that live adjacent to the walkway.
And has the city received any communication from any of the mobile home owners or tenants or from the owners association regarding these revised plans?
The city hasn't received any correspondence on the action before you tonight. However, those were some concerns that were expressed early on in the project when we last reviewed it regarding privacy and public access along that walkway.
So it's kind of surprising. I would have thought that there would be some communication regarding that. Was proper notification provided to the mobile home park?
Yes, we provided the same notification that we went through with the prior applications. The mobile home park was notified, and I believe the applicant can expand further, but I believe they reached out to each of the tenants as well.
Okay, so I'd like to hear some additional data on that. One of the unique features of this project, at least the prior project, was the boat dock, dry storage and all that, and various mechanisms in order to have efficiencies with boat storage. Is that still the case with this revised plan?
That's correct. That's still a major component of the project, and it's actually a requirement of the planned community development plan that facility be incorporated into the overall project.
So perhaps the applicant could provide additional detail on how that works given the location change on the site plan. Any other questions from the staff, from the commission? Yep. Commissioner Kennedy.
Staff, do you have a graphic on the new revised conceptual site plan showing the property line along East Coast Road?
The property line is kind of dotted in.
Yeah.
It's not that clear along East Coast Highway, but it's represented by the red lines. It jogs it, but it's approximately, I want to say, about 10 feet back from Coast Highway.
This is very conceptual. Is this the level that we're looking at? We're not trying to approve anything here at this level. We're coming back. We're basically, in a nutshell, we're just kind of hearing what the Coastal Commission recommended. Modifications.
That's correct. This is really just to provide a vision for the development of the site. However, when it comes back, the plan will be much more refined with details and how it complies with the development standards in the planned community text.
And in that vein, the Coastal Commission indicated in their letter, these are suggestions. Do they always write it that way?
They do. It's the term the Coastal Commission uses. However, if they are not accepted, then the amendment will not be approved by the Coastal Commission.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't get to. I already heard the question about the architectural theme and more of a precise site plan will come in later. What's going on? I'd like the applicant to also express what's going on under the bridge and then on the other side of the bridge for me when I get up.
That's where the dance floor will be.
It's right over near the new restaurant, so I just trying to figure it out. Thank you.
It's hidden now. I'm just joking. Commissioner Zach.
So, from a processing standpoint, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, I'm trying to understand, I think some of my colleagues are as well. I understand tonight they're coming up, they're trying to get these land use modifications and land use approvals, and then they'll come back with the site plan and go process a coastal development plan or permit for that site plan. Why bifurcate those two things? Why not try to, I mean, it's like what this application process started earlier back in 2011, and now here we are in 2016, and we're going to hopefully approve these land use designations tonight, and then they'll get going on the site plan, and that'll go to coastal, and it could be another 3 years before they're back here with coastal's modifications to the site plan. Like, why bifurcate it? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think due to the complexity of the application, and the big question is whether or not the ability to change the land use designation to allow residential development on the site was a big question. And so to minimize their risks and costs associated with designing very detailed architectural drawings, they decided to break it up.
Understood. Okay. So I want to hear from the applicant. I mean, and just from my own experience dealing with Coastal Commission on projects that I've worked on, these are suggestions, but you basically have to accept them. And so I just kind of would like to know more of a candid response as to what the applicant thinks about the suggestions. And I'd also like to know what city staff thinks, because obviously this isn't the plan that the city approved. So is staff supportive of these modifications?
Staff is supportive of modifications, and we represented that to the Coastal Commission at the hearing this past December, as well as the applicant.
Okay.
So why didn't city staff suggest, these types of changes before Coastal Commission?
With regard to the public access, we felt what was previously proposed was adequate. However, the enhanced coastal access does have benefit of providing a better trail connection.
Okay. How do these new land use designations conform with the local coastal plan that's being processed right now? Will you just have to modify that to what we currently are processing with coastal to conform with these new designations, or how does that occur?
So that application for implementation plan is under review with the Coastal Commission now. The prior planned community development plan has been incorporated into the implementation plan, and if and when this document is approved by the City Council, we'll swap out the planned community document.
Okay. I'd like to hear a little bit more as to the communication to the mobile home owners about the loss of the private beach and the public trail that's going to be going between them and the bay. And then my last question has to do with the addendum to the EIR, the fact that that there's no ground floor residential, and I don't really see much in terms of the way of densities, and maybe I just didn't focus in on it because it's just land use designations. But when you've got retail now predominantly on the ground floor, that means there's an increase in retail and therefore more trips. So was that evaluated? Because I didn't see that in the write-up on the addendum on the traffic.
Yeah, that's correct. So you're right, the traffic associated with square footage is different than residential. However, none of the density or intensities changed from what was previously approved. 49 units continue to be allowed, that's just in a different configuration. And the amount of non-residential square footage that was allowed to be constructed and actually required formula remains the same. So there's really no change in intensity.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Okay. Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Chair Kramer and Commissioners. I'm John Erskine. I'm Land Use and Coastal Counsel for the applicant. Gordon Craig, the project manager, is here with me. He'll help answer some of the questions. And the landowner, Michael Gelfand, is also here with us this evening. A lot of good questions, questions we've received, before, during, and after this process. I love the typo on the city council. I can assure you that you need medications before, during, and after dealing with the Coastal Commission staff and the commissioners. I don't think there was a typo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we availed ourselves of that, I can assure you. The process has been long. We consciously, I'm going to jump around here a little bit to try to do it in order. We consciously bifurcated the process early on, and we actually started this back in 2009, 2010. And Michael and his partners, as Jaime said, were concerned about the commission. It's a daunting process. Wasn't sure that they would let go of strict CM in favor of mixed use, which we thought would revitalize the project. And ultimately, I think it was the right decision. And some of you obviously know how expensive detailed architecture is, and that was a big, trying to get construction level, CDP level drawings is complex. So that was the genesis of that. We worked very, very closely. Gordon and our community relations people worked very closely throughout the process. For those of you who are newer to the commission, I think Gordon practically lived with the Mobile Home Park Building Improvement Committee, the BIC. I think some of them are here this evening. There certainly wasn't unanimity, but overall the BIC supported the project. Some members of the BIC did not, and I think that was the official position when we came through the Planning Commission and City Council the first time, did not support the bayfront access going in front, nor did we. But it became pretty clear early last year in dealing with the commission, and we spent a lot of time with the commission staff, had good access to them, even to Charles Lester. May he enjoy the rest of his career wherever he's going. But Lester was, the executive director of the commission, was very helpful to us, gave us a lot of time, and it was clear that access was going to happen in some manner. We were able to get, if you look at the policy mods, the modifications, we were able to get a recognition by the staff that time, place, and manner restrictions will be incorporated at the CDP level in that access. So the policy mod says continuous access along the bayfront, connecting with Newport Dunes, and how we cross the private beach was a key discussion with coastal staff. The commission was obviously a key discussion with members of the mobile home parks representatives, and we fought for not having to do that, but in the end they put a condition on us, or put a modification in the policies to do that. The mechanism to do that, and we're hopeful, and Michael was reminding me that we're hopeful that there may be a way to go around the beach through some sort of a dockway system, out in the water. We'll have eelgrass issues and all that, but we're going to look at that. So the beach could be preserved. So I think I've answered a couple of the questions. The notice, extensive notice, we went beyond the 300-foot. We worked with Jaime and the planning staff to make sure the notice was properly given. Again, the BIC representatives are here. They all knew about it, and they were intimately involved during the negotiations with the Coastal Commission. Several of the mobile home park owners, both people in support of the project and people that weren't totally in support of the project. Certainly several that were not in support of the view tower, a couple that weren't in support of the continuous access, came to the Coastal Commission hearing in Monterey. So there was involvement in the mobile home park. I think I've covered everything except the architecture and under the bridge and some of those questions, and I think that's Gordon will answer those.
Chair, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gordon Craig, Project Manager for Back Bay Landing. With regards to the architecture, I think enough time has kind of lapsed here that it's a rethink in terms of trying to pigeonhole yourself into a particular architectural style. We've even had some concerns or objections to the notion that we would define it as coastal Mediterranean. So we tried and we've worked and asked staff and some of our community members to broaden that to something that is more appropriate or in keeping with the time and place of where we're headed right now. Obviously placemaking is a huge component of this project, and we really want to have that quality and that style that reinforces that placemaking opportunity. With regards to underneath the bridge, nothing really has functionally changed from our original conceptual plan. And again, I use the big C word, conceptual, on this because it's a vision and it's subject to change, and we fully expect that it's to be a living process of modifications. Again, back with the community as we go into specific design details, as well as working again with the Coastal Commission on this. But that said, under the bridge has been primarily a parking area for those uses that are on either side of the bridge. Currently now we are showing the boathouse and of course parking for Pearson's Port, as well as the stand-up paddleboard and the rental kayak facilities that are all part and parcel of the existing site today. On the south side of the bridge, that's CM use. We've used that, I guess, the thinking there is for marine commercial services building. Again, coastal related use or coastal dependent use. With respect to the lot line adjustment, we have basically improved the circulation into the project area. We've improved the ability for utilities to service that. We have a big city municipal water line that goes diagonally across the property, and the rethink on that was to move that line further up Bayside Drive and underneath the primary driveway area that then would follow its course either out into the water to make its underwater crossing that exists today, or continue in the same or a similar alignment that is where it exists, where the vault takes the water underground. In addition, the lot line adjustment improves the circulation for the existing mobile home community, straightens out the road areas, as well as provides additional buffer. We had heard early on in the process from our Beck residents that when we had the lot line adjustment proposal that modified or replaced 3 mobile homes, could we get 4 to make further improvements, to make further buffering for the community, as well as just kind of cleaning up the edge conditions of the property to allow access from both sides. In addition, the lot line adjustment provides a rebalancing of the parking. The current condition on the property is the guest parking is predominantly on their south side, and there is hardly any on the east side, which abuts up to the Newport Dunes. So what we want to do is take this as an opportunity to rebalance the guest parking for both the north portion of the property or the east portion of the property, as well as the south.
Thanks. Yeah, I commend the applicant, you on particularly the architecture. That was one of my points I recall a few years ago, so I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing how that actually will look. Do you have a question?
Just had a small question on the parking there under the bridge.
Yes.
Due to public access and a lot of coming and going, how is that going to be secure? Is that there's a lot of people that sleep in their cars. There could be a homeless situation. How is has that been evaluated? Because under the bridge on the other side, I've walked it, I've run it in the marathon, that goes through there. Right. There's sometimes homeless folks that are living under there and drug use, and I just want to make sure that you guys are prepared safety-wise if that's ever been a concern?
Well, as you know, the Coastal Commission is very emphatic about continuous public access. That is a big part of this project in terms of the public realm, or having the opportunity of the public being able to essentially continue from the extension or the boundary line of where the Balboa Marina or Irvine Company and the restaurant area is, all the way out to Coast Highway and or along the bayfront edge that would link up with the Newport Dunes. Hopefully, the success of the project and the intensification of the use of the property discourages or dissuades the idea of overnight sleeping or whatever. And I'm sure that security is a great important component of this project for the safety of the community and the residents that join us.
Can you comment on the boat storage and whatever you call it, the mechanism?
Sure. Previously, Chair Kramer, the boat storage building was more kind of in the middle of the original conceptual plan, and the launch area was located between the two dock areas, or what we affectionately call the T-docks. Working with the Coastal Commission staff, and I will say this, we had a very lengthy and I think beneficial process with Coastal staff. We worked very hard with them. We had some very good communications with them, and they encouraged us to reposition the boathouse to more or less the point area and try and have that public realm or public access connectivity that reinforces the preservation of and use of Pearson's Port. That is still part of this project, and that does not go away. But in terms of the boathouse functionality, it pretty much is the same. We vision that the boats, you would, like a concierge service, you would call in for your boat to be placed in the water. It'd be provisioned. It'd be side tied to the dock and or the launch area, and on the return, again, the boat would be pulled out of the water. There would be a land area where the boat would be cleaned and then placed back into the storage area of the buildings. The boathouse is, the architecture on that is consistent with what we would envision for all of the residential and the commercial areas, and the quality and the design of that is integral. That basically does not look like an institutional or a industrial use.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Residential, what are you thinking about? Is it for sale, for rent? Is there an affordable number of units? What's it about?
There is no affordable component to the residential use. We are undecided about whether or not it would be for sale or rental, but we will be building it to condominium for sale standards.
I assume, I think I know. The landowner owns the land under the East Coast Highway Bridge?
Correct.
And there's an easement for Van Caltrans, maybe it still is?
Correct. And in return, we have to provide an area or an opportunity so that they can service the bridge from underneath.
And I noticed in some of the graphics, small print, boat repair, boat products, etc. If you're going to have boats coming and going in the lift, with all the environmental concerns about oil and gasoline and water, is this going to be a monumental permit to be allowed to do that at this location?
Well, we've gone to great detail to evaluate, as well as the environmental documentation, to address any of those and all of those conditions and concerns. And quite frankly, I think that the notion or the idea of having enclosed boat storage is of great benefit to Newport Harbor, because it is removing the potential of leaking for boats or servicing or that onto the land area. And of course, we can control water runoff or the drainage or the spoils a lot better than we can on the water.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll open up to general public comments. Please come forward.
Chairman Kramer, members of the commission, my name is Maureen Santo, and I am one of those Bayside Village residents. Certainly appreciate your questions about how it impacted us. Our improvement committee did notify us in our newsletter, and we appreciate them for that. I think the reason that you didn't hear from any of us is that we got the impression that the Coastal Commission has spoken, and that's the end. There's no question about our privacy in terms of the walkway along the front. I do hope you will make provision for landscaping that's significant enough to protect those people on the front row without blocking their vision. How you do that, I don't know. My greatest concern is traffic. I hope you are realizing that in the last few months, you have approved 2 hotels at the Dunes, and it was approved long ago. The only access to those hotels right now is Bayside Village, Bayside Drive, which is our only access to the village. You have also approved the new restaurant. That corner of Pacific Coast Highway and Bayside Drive has 333, it has El Sol, it's got a new 400-seat restaurant. Back Bay Landing is going to have a huge impact in terms of trips per day. And then the people going to the hotels, I really hope you will consider requiring the developers of the hotels to bring a new access through the dunes to at least in some way, because limit the traffic on Bayside Drive. And early in the stages of this Back Bay Landing development, there was also talk about a ramp that went directly from Pacific Coast Highway down into the new project. That would improve, or at least help. The way, nothing was said tonight about all of the changes increasing bicycle activity on Bayside Drive, pedestrian activity on Bayside Drive. We're already losing, according to this plan, some parking. There isn't enough parking in the village for all of us, so a number of residents have to leave a car out on the street. So congestion, safety at that intersection, traffic are serious concerns that I hope you will look at. Thank you.
For the record, I don't recall us having approved any hotels recently, so can you please, Brenda, can you...
She must be referring to the Dune Supplement Agreement that identifies a hotel in this area, but that has not been entitled by the city at this point.
Yeah, so we haven't done any approvals on that.
So I just have a follow-up question on that. So when the EIR did their traffic analysis for this project, did they, and they did the traffic study, was there like a cumulative analysis that factored in that hotel?
That's
even
correct.
though it's not entitled, but the land use designation is there? It was factored in, okay.
Yeah, it was factored in as an approved project in the sense that we had done a traffic analysis of the settlement agreement and the potential traffic associated with the dunes was factored into the traffic analysis for this project. So assuming complete build out of the project and the maximum development limits of this project, as well as traffic from the dunes, and including potential traffic from the restaurant south of this highway was all factored into the traffic analysis.
I didn't go through and look at the details of the EIR that was done previously, but is there any mitigation measures regarding traffic improvements for that intersection in particular, Bayside and PCH?
There is, and it's actually part of it's a design feature as part of the project, and it's included in the plan, community development plan. There's an exhibit within the document, but part of the project features is adding or making improvements in Bayside Drive to add a new through left turn lane on Bayside Drive going south and a dedicated right turn lane. In addition, part of the project feature is moving that main driveway for the project site north, and that allows for increased stacking for vehicles trying to turn left into the project site without blocking Bayside Drive.
Yeah, where is that in the planned community?
And also, is that a mitigation measure that is put on this project, or is it like a fair share contribution that all the projects that are developing in this area that would contribute to?
It's an actual public improvement that's required that they'll have to show as a component of their project when they come back for site development review.
Jaime, are you looking at Exhibit 7 of the...
That's correct, Exhibit 7 of the PCDP.
It's handwritten on page 213. I think what's confusing is we don't know what the current circulated traffic pattern looks like. Well, that is a somewhat dangerous intersection. There's been at least one death that I know of that's occurred there in the last 2 years. Yeah, present.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's the blow answer. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's continue the public comments. Please come forward.
Chair Kramer, members of the Commission, my name again is Jim Mosher. One point I wanted to make is you have a thick agenda packet before you tonight, 341 pages. And I hope you don't get the impression from the staff presentation that all of this has been reviewed and is approved by the Coastal Commission. The only part that they looked at and approved, my understanding, is what you find here as Exhibit C, starting on handwritten page 29. There's 3 pages of text and 3 pages of maps, and that's what they're asking the City of Newport Beach to agree to. The planned community development plan that you're seeing here and the modifications to that is the city's interpretation of what they think would be consistent with those new policies. But I do not believe, and I'm pretty confident, the Coastal Commission has not yet agreed to any of that as being consistent with the policies. As Jaime said, I believe the plan is for this modified planned community development plan to be slipped in to the LCP implementation plan that is separately before the Coastal Commission, which means this will be slipped inside another large document. And to me, that's kind of an effort to avoid close scrutiny of it by anybody, but that's my opinion. If it does get scrutinized, I believe one of the points of contention is going to be this proposal for a seawall bulkhead that is appearing here on, I think it's handwritten page 86. And I know in writing the policies, although the Coastal Commission might allow that, it would be only if it was absolutely needed to protect this project, because the area around it currently is a sandy beach, and they would like and prefer to see a project that did not require a bulkhead to support this promenade that is being proposed. And And the final comment I wanted to make is that area where the bulkhead would be going is, in addition to the Coastal Commission's concern, there's a separate state concern with that the Coastal Commission did not necessarily address, which is this whole area north of the bridge turns out to be a state conservation area and a marine protected area, which greatly constrains how much a modification can be made now or in the future to the shoreline along there. And I think the Coastal Commission staff, you might find this curious, I think was just barely coming up to speed on grasping that further constraint when this matter came before them up in Monterey or wherever it was. So that's an additional hurdle and problem that has probably needed additional approvals. Thank you.
That was it for me. Okay. Our jurisdiction as Planning Commission, that's my understanding, is it stops kind of once we have water, then it becomes the Harbor Commission, right? So we don't have any, it's outside of our scope to be talking about seagrass or conservation areas in the water, correct?
That's correct, Chairman Kramer. The zoning code ends at the land.
And is this project going to the Harbor Commission?
No, the Harbor Commission did review the project as part of a study session item. But I do just want to add that within the Planned Community Development Plan, there's limits for the location of any future bulkhead, which at a minimum would have to be located higher than the highest high water line. And so that would take it out of any marine protected area. So there wouldn't be an impact regarding that PA.
Commissioner Zach?
I just want to, because Mr. Mosier seemed to question, wanted to clarify that we knew what we were approving, and I think we have a good understanding of it. I mean, we're specifically looking at the land use designations, and I brought up the EIR, for example. That was certified with everything that was approved by council back in 2014. That went to Coastal as part of the project that got approved. Coastal doesn't ever make any comments or doesn't recertify an EIR. The city, it certifies the EIR. So all the traffic analysis and everything was associated with that was associated with those prior approvals. We did an addendum to this EIR to conform to the new land use designations. And so if we approve that tonight and council approves it, the land use designations, as I understand it, will be set because those were the recommendations by Coastal, and they don't get into an EIR, for example. And then the next step would be going through the detailed plans. That a site development plant permit would come before this body, and then would go through the process of Coastal. So I think that we do have a clear understanding. If I'm missing something, or any of the other commissioners have questions, I think we should ask them. But I wanted staff to let me know if I was misunderstanding anything of what's being asked of us tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. And Commissioner Mosier's correct as well in that the Coastal Commission reviewed the coastal land use plan and the policy changes. And as a result of their suggested modifications, that triggered the need to update the rest of our land use plans for consistency. And then ultimately the Coastal Commission will review the Planned Community Development Plan as part of our implementation plan. That is correct.
Other public comments?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Steve Ray. First, just a few kind of general comments about some things that have been discussed, and then I have a couple of substantive issues. First of all, regarding the Bayside Village residents being concerned about the access, if you go back and replay the tape from the Coastal Commission hearing, you will see that there were many residents from the village who actually did get up and comment about the access going across the property and the problem with the beach and everything else. So there was definitely a lot of concern expressed, and I think as Maureen's expressed that, the feeling was that that kind of issue is dead now and decided. But there was a lot of comment about it. Another thing we were talking about, and Jim mentioned the marine protected area. In the planned community development plan, in Exhibit 10, the drainage plan, it does show that there is an existing 30-inch storm drain that goes out, and they show the design where they're going to be collecting all of the runoff from the property and moving it into that 30-inch storm drain, which will then discharge it all into the bay waters. So there may actually be an issue relative to that coming up, possibly when it gets to the Coastal Commission. It may be something that you need to consider as well when you're looking at the project design features and its possible impact on those waters. There is also in that same drainage plan what's called a proposed storm drain outlet to the north there, going into those the T docks there. So there would be an additional storm drainage going out there. That would be a new storm drainage. Would have to go through the area, through the wall there, and out into those bay waters as well. So there may be an issue that you'll be considering in the near future. Maybe the Harbor Commission may have to look at that as well. Another item is, and I have a question, maybe this is for Jaime, the lot line change that you showed on the graph. I'm a little confused. Is that the one that you submitted to the Coastal Commission, or is that a change since the Coastal Commission's consideration?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's a revised lot line adjustment. The Coastal Commission didn't take action on the lot line adjustment in conjunction with the Coastal Land Use Plan Amendment, or eventually with the site development plan and coastal development permit, they'll take action on the lot line adjustment as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that'll be another time. Okay, and then a couple issues of more substance. All the talk about the bulkhead, the potential bulkhead there, and where it would be located. There is in the on page 21 of the Planned Community Development Plan. There's discussion in O and P about a scientific study assessment that will be done regarding hazards assessment and sea level rise and shoreline management. And by the licensed civil engineer, that would be done in conjunction with the location of the bulkhead, because all the study of those processes that might be affected, either the sand replenishment or the water flows, things like that, would also be part of determining, as well as potential sea level rise, determining where that would be going. So the exact location of that is really unknown at this point in time. We'll be a part of that to help ease some of the confusion about that. But if there is no reference in here in this document at all that says that because the Coastal Commission made clear that study must be done before that can be done, achieved. There is nothing in here to reference that actually, that study must be done prior to any placement of the seawall or determination of that. So that is one concern I have about the language here in the Planned Community Development Plan, and that not being addressed specifically. A second thing is on page 4 and 5, in the area called Development Limits and Land Use Plan. On page 5, there's an area that starts with any mixed-use development that includes integration of residential units shall be subject to the following additional development limitations. These are limitations. And it says, number 1, a minimum of 50% of the total proposed gross floor area located within the planning area 1 shall be limited to non-residential uses. So otherwise, it must be at least a 1-1 match there between residential and commercial. And then if you go to the previous page 4, and look at table 1, development limits by planning area, and you look at planning area 1, it says commercial, 49,144 square feet, and dry stack boat storage, and those count together, is 32,500 square feet. That totals 81,644 square feet. You look at residential, it says 85,644 square feet allowed for that. That does not meet the requirement of the planned community development plan to match on a one-to-one basis. It's a 4,000 square foot deficit there.
Okay.
That should be correct.
Okay, so you need to wrap up because
okay. Yeah, this is
staff can answer this question.
Okay, yeah, and then there is 4,000 square feet over in planning area 4, that if you add that to that, that would equal the square footage. However, that is not allowable in that it must be all within planning area 1. You can't borrow from planning area 4 to match, to make the requirement in planning area 1. So I would suggest that a change needs to be made in the square footage of residential, reducing by 4,000 and the corresponding dwelling units as well to make it be adequate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Staff, could you address the calculations that Mr. Ray discussed?
Yeah, that's correct. The missing 4,000 square feet is actually going to be located within planning area 4. And that ratio was put in place to ensure that the mixed-use water-related designated properties, which includes both planning areas 1 and 4, consists of a 50-50 ratio. So the 50-50 allowance would include planning area 4.
So there are no issues with the calculations?
No.
Thank you. Next, please.
Well, actually, in that ratio, hello, Commissioners, I'm Seychelle Kent, resident of Bayside Village. There is, in the paragraph talking about that ratio, it is only supposed to be in relation to planning area 1 and not include planning area number 4. But there's two things that I would like to have addressed today, and my concern is for Bayside Drive. I did speak with Jaime, and the plan at this time is to include the parking along both sides of the street, include a class 1 or 2 bike lane on each side of the street, and then a promenade bike lane off street, 12 feet wide. And I went out and measured, and it doesn't look like everything is going to fit. The city 5 years ago put in new landscaping, new irrigation, and all of that is going to have to come out in order to work Bayside Drive within that confine. And then also you'll only have maybe 3 or 4 feet max in between the roadway and Bayside Village. So it's very, very tight. There's also a blind bend that we deal with daily with bicycle riders going down the street. It's really tight. It's a dangerous bend. So I am requesting that you look at that further. And then I also have a concern about the bulkhead, that whether it's on land or on the high tide line, when the water comes up to the bulkhead at high tide, it's going to alter the sand and the environmentally sensitive habitat of the De Anza Islands. I'm really concerned about them. We need to treasure our ESHA, our environmentally sensitive habitat. And then also the dredging of the entrance and exit of the boat landing could also possibly impact ESHA along with the gas and the oil that was mentioned earlier. So I appreciate allowing me to speak to you tonight and considering my concerns.
Thanks. Like I said, we don't have jurisdiction beyond water's edge, so unfortunately it's not relevant. Tony, could you maybe speak on the traffic issue there? Because I think there's some confusion that was brought up by...
Commissioner?
Hold on. You need some answer.
I think the question had to do with the cross-section of the roadway and whether there was sufficient width in the cross-section to provide for the number of lanes and the bike lanes. The design that we're looking at now, the conceptual design, would include enough space for Class 2 bike lane and also a Class 1 off-road shared pedestrian bike sidewalk in addition to the lanes that will be on the roadway. So that in that concept, there is sufficient right of way to provide that.
Including landscaping?
Yes, and there will be landscaping in addition to that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Tony? Okay. Go ahead.
My name's Ray Loud. I'm first EP of the HOA at Bayside Village. And I'll just cut mine real quick. I don't need to read all this. It's just that one of the biggest concerns that we have in the village where we live is the loss of security, primarily on the waterfront if it's open to public access, and the loss of the beach. That has to go. That's private beach and we use it a lot during the summer. So just take that into consideration. I thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your concern regarding what could be perceived as a taking of private property, but you can place your concerns with the good folks at the Coastal Commission and not with local officials like us. This is part of a larger problem that in California, unfortunately, we're burdened with. Where Sacramento has seemingly more authority than the local level, which is unfortunate. Go ahead, Commissioner Zach.
Just to add on to that, I mean, Chair Kramer, we don't have to accept the changes that Coastal are proposing. But it puts the developer in a pickle, and they're never going to get a project approved.
Right.
And so you gotta pick your battle, so to speak, and trust the fact that they've gone through the process with city staff and sat down with Coastal staff and worked things out. And at the end of the day, it's a big, it's essentially it's a compromise on a lot of levels. So I'm hoping that occurred. They moved from what the applicant said tonight. What city staff said tonight, they're supportive of these changes.
Right. Any other public comments?
Okay. Excuse me, Chairman?
Yes.
I want to apologize to Mr. Steve Ray. He did identify an error after further review of the document, and there would be a quick fix. So if you look at Henry, page 149 of your staff report.
149.
In the middle of the page, so subsection 1, where it does state a minimum of 50% of the total proposed gross floor area located within planning area 1. We should also insert and planning area 4 shall be limited to non-residential uses, and that's consistent with the language in subsection 2 below that.
Okay. Can you repeat that again?
So it should read a minimum of 50% of the total proposed gross floor area located within planning area 1 and 4 shall be limited to non-residential uses. And that'll bring the ratio in line.
So it's supposed to mirror what's in number 2 with their planning area 1 and 4 there?
Correct.
So it's just a Scrivener's error?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I was not planning to talk, but a couple of comments were made here that I would. I have been a resident and owner of Bayside Village since 2006. I was the homeowner association.
What's your name?
Malcolm Reed, I'm sorry. I was the homeowner association president from 2007 to 2010. And I appointed that BIC, the Bayside Improvement Committee, that has been mentioned a couple of times here tonight. We've been meeting with the applicant over the last 6 years, and I think my main concern here is that of all of the people that I have talked with, and so many people on the homeowners association during these last 6 years, there's overwhelming support within Bayside Village for this project. Not everybody's in favor of every single aspect of it, but there's overwhelming support. And I think the general consensus of the people that I've talked with is that it's a bunch of broken down RVs and boats over there now. It's dusty, it's a mess. I have a Duffy boat there, I've gone by there 100 times, it's one of the worst areas in the bay as you go by. Secondly, and I think probably the most important thing that most of us believe, is that a quality development like this will improve the property values of all of us within Bayside Village. And so I think some of the things, and somebody mentioned the parking. The latest plan that we have from the developer or from the applicant is that there is no loss of parking. The lot line that you've talked about here a couple times tonight was requested specifically by the BIC, and I have to commend the applicant. They agreed and they purchased 4 homes there, mainly so we would have better circulation, so we would not lose parking spaces, and so we would have more queuing Bayside Drive to get onto Pacific Coast Highway there. So they've been very cooperative, listening to us, listening to the different opinions on there. But I think the bottom line of it, in terms of the tone of all of the people I've talked with over the years in Bayside Village residents there, is that they are all in favor of this. Few nits and nats here, but they are largely in favor, almost without exception, of the development moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, Commissioner Zach.
In my notes, when Mr. Moser had made his points, the last point I didn't get, I forgot to ask about this. The last point, and I may have written it down incorrectly, but I think he was talking about this area being tidelands, and there was some jurisdictional issues that he said that Coastal didn't get their heads wrapped around at the last minute before the hearing in Monterey, and I don't know why that would be the case since they've been looking at this for 3 years. But Mr. Moser, if it would be okay with the chair, if he could just come back up, I just want to understand that point and make sure I get clarity from staff as to what that was about, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Dr. Moser.
Yes, I did not go to the hearing in Monterey, but I was aware from other conversations about the city's own wish to improve the Lower Castaways Park that we currently have undeveloped, and we're wanting to build a little boat launching facility on that side, and the city believed on that. It became apparent in that discussion that everything north of the north end of the bridge was in a marine protected area, and the city was not sure. It's not the Coastal Commission, but it's whoever, I think it's the Fish and Wildlife, or whoever oversees the marine protected area. We ended up on that side, at least temporarily. We just have a little hand-launched kayak thing, but it's under the bridge, so that it was not impeding into the marine protected area. And on the Friday before the Monday hearing in Monterey before the Coastal Commission, I sent in some written comments, as I sometimes do on these projects, and I did mention that, and then I think I watched the video, and that seemed to be kind of a wake-up call to them that there was another issue involving the marine protected area that they hadn't really thought of or evaluated in their consideration of the project up until that point, because it is a different agency. It's not the Coastal Commission that oversees the marine protected aspects of it. That's about all I know.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Does the applicant have any other comments or rebuttal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Erskine again for the applicant. Just quickly on the marine protected area, the staff was aware of that communication, and I believe Coastkeeper had communicated during the city council process, and I know that I spoke with Gary Brown several times about that. The marine protected area primarily prohibits take and is focused on enhancing fisheries and restoring eelgrass and doing all those things. It does not regulate or prohibit development adjacent to a marine protected area. So specifically does not do that. There are some who would like that to happen, but so far that's not the case. With respect to the revised conceptual plan, and the conceptual plan, it's correct that those were not before the commission, but the commission had both the conceptual plan and the revised conceptual plan in their briefing packets that Gordon and I prepared and used during our ex parte communications. And both the conceptual plan and the revised conceptual plan are on file with those ex parte communications. And then finally, on the seawall bulkhead issue, the commission had a policy mod that would have focused us only on elimination of shoreline protection devices. We were able to get that policy removed, so that 30235 of the Coastal Act, which specifically says you shall approve a shoreline protective device when necessary to protect certain coastal priority development, and that is the policy we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Chair.
Over.
Yeah, you bet. We obviously spent a lot of time on this project some years back and looked at the planning issues in great detail. There were a lot of issues brought up tonight, and I think these aren't issues that we're numb to. We're just don't have the opportunity to have jurisdiction. I think that's one of the challenges of this project. They've got lots and lots of agencies that they need to go through, and so from my perspective, the planning issues that are before us tonight, the project is enhanced from the one that we reviewed last time, so I'm prepared to make a motion. You're ready. So I would recommend that adopt resolution number to be determined, recommended City Council accept the California Coastal Commission's suggested modifications and approve the addendum prepared for the certified environmental impact report for the project consistent with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act and CEQA guidelines, and approve general plan amendment number GP 2011-011, coastal land use plan amendment number LC 2011-007, code amendment number CA 2013-009, and planned community development plan adoption number PC 2011-001, as modified to be consistent with the California Coastal Commission's suggested modifications to LC 2011-007, and approve lot line adjustment number LA 2016-003.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Hilgner, if I may, just to clarify, does your motion also include the correction of the Scribner's error that Jaime identified?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And any other cleanup items? Any other discussion? If not, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Congratulations. We look forward to seeing the site development review, hopefully in the next few months. Dead silence. I think it is. Okay. Moving on. Staff recognition items. Any motions for reconsideration? Community Development Director's report.
In regards to our process for certifying our local coastal program, we do have some scheduled hearings coming up. The April Coastal Commission hearing is going to be looking at some minor adjustments to our coastal boundary. When the coastal boundary was first established, it was very vague, so we've been working really hard with the Coastal Commission staff in determining the appropriate locations of that boundary, so that's going to be going to the Commission in April. And we're still looking at potentially May with all the implementation plan coming to hearing. The hearing will be held here. In regards to other updates, I pass out to you our tentative meeting agenda. I will highlight the fact that we had our second workshop last night for the West Mesa Streetscape Master Plan, and we had a pretty good turnout, 15 to 17 people.
What'd you get, please?
That was the West Newport Mesa Streetscape Plan that you had looked at, I think it was last meeting, or maybe the meeting before that. And the update to that will be coming back to the Planning Commission on April 7th. So you can see some of the progress of that plan. The upcoming meetings, April 7th, listed here, we will be having a study session in the Museum House. And included in that discussion will be kind of overall development potential for Newport Center, similar to what we did for the airport area, of what is remaining in that area, as well as a little bit of background as to how we have processed past approvals in this area. And the variance to you that's continued tonight will be on April 7th. And Newport Place, we are tentatively looking at April 21st for that to be brought back. And that's all I have to report.
Can you provide a little more color on the coastal boundary issue that you brought up?
Sure. So when the Coastal Act was first established, a coastal boundary was drawn on a map with a very thick pin, and so over the years it's been interpreted different ways. So once we are finally getting our full certified LCP, with today's technology of GIS, we're able to make a very specific line. And the Coastal Commission staff has had their interpretation of that thick line, and we have had our interpretation of that thick line. So we have worked really hard on ensuring that our interpretation is being recognized, because we don't want any more properties that we have not previously considered to be in the coastal zone to now be thrown into it. And we have had a great success with the Coastal Commission staff in having them understand our point of view and recognizing how our line does meet the requirements of the Coastal Act. So we had like 13 different areas of disagreement, and now we're down to 3. So it's just basically trying to ensure that we are being consistent in how we are implementing the Coastal Act in our city. So
what are the flashpoints? What areas are?
For instance, right, in Bulk Gully, for instance, we have, our interpretation is that the line should be drawn basically at the tops of the property line. So yes, Bulk Gully is in the Coastal Act, but the parcels above those areas should not be. And the Coastal Commission, in some cases, have proposed to keep the homes in the coastal zone. But we're coming to agreement on that. So nothing significant. In other cases, you might have a developed community developed as one, and the coastal zone will dig job right through it. But we want the entire community, which is a developed area that doesn't have any coastal resources, to be regulated similarly. So we're proposing to have either all of it in or all of it out. You don't want to have one neighbor in the coastal zone and another neighbor not. So just little things like that.
Next item is announcements on matters that the Planning Commission members would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report. I have one. I mean, I think this whole discussion of videotaping Planning Commission meetings should have originated first here in the Planning Commission. So I would like that to be placed for discussion on the next meeting agenda, so that we can review ourselves and make a decision ourselves with a recommendation to council whether we would like to have these meetings televised or videotaped, whatever you want to call it, using the cameras that are already here. Do you have enough guidance on that? Okay. Any other items? Okay. Request for excused absences. None? Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, Jim. Hey, brother. That line in the cover? What's that? Line in the cover? Yeah, are you? Morning. Never run. What fighting, you know, they posted on. I had no idea.